Hi, it's Carly and Prem here from Triibe. Today we want to talk a little bit about embodiment and relating. At Triibe we're really passionate about embodiment. And at a most basic level, embodiment really means just like being aware of what's happening in our bodies. It's like having presence within our bodies. And in my experience, this is such a fundamentally important part of relating and communication, and it's something that's really not kind of emphasized very much. And why this is really important for me is because actually there's all of this communication that's coming from the body. There's all of this implicit memory that's built into who we are based on growing up and our childhood experiences that actually determines and shapes, you know, how we're making meaning and what's going on for us. And for me, discovering some of those implicit patterns in my system has been like a super powerful, liberating thing. And one of those really big discoveries for me was realizing that a lot of the social anxiety that I felt over the years was like driven by fear in my gut, basically. You know, and I just like had this sensation in my gut that I wasn't actually aware of. You know, it was like when I started becoming aware of it, it was like, oh my God, all these years I've been feeling this, I didn't realize it. And I was just aware that I like felt a bit socially awkward and kind of, you know, didn't really know how to relax into social context quite a lot of the time. But actually underneath that was all of this fear and all this sensation that was occurring. And so learning how to like firstly just bring attention to that and be aware of that and take the time to actually listen to what's going on in our bodies is, I think, a really important and powerful thing to do. But then also to actually bring that into communication. And the thing about the body is that it goes way slower than the mind. You know, so we actually really need to slow down our communication a whole lot more and take that time to just like be connected to ourselves and be listening to those subtle sensations in the body to start presencing what might actually be going on. How's this land for you?
Yeah, super relevant to me. I totally relate to what you said about feeling, the word I used to use was not socially awkward, because I used to push, and I still do, but I used to push up and out a lot more to sort of protect the part of me that was probably socially awkward. What I called it was self-conscious. Like I felt self-conscious a lot of the time, and I would do my damnedest, and still can, you know, for sure, I'm not free of this, do my damnedest to make sure that no one knew that I was self-conscious. So the sensations within the self-consciousness were sensations that, like a tight contracting sensation in my belly that seemed like it was turning and wrapping in on itself. It would just get like tighter and tighter and tighter. Yeah, and I have spent much time in my life actually trying to kind of not feel it, but it was there anyway. And how I would try and not feel it is try to be the opposite. Like try to be super confident and funny and not self-conscious, so almost like in better than. And that really impacted my relating because there just wasn't a lot of vulnerability then. I actually felt being vulnerable felt dangerous because of all that was happening in my body.
Yep, I super relate to all that.
Yeah.
And one thing I'm present to there is where we can really like be had by the sensations and the feelings under those sensations, and it's like kind of like thoughts are arising out of that place, you know, and like for me, I wasn't even really aware of it, you know, and then learning how to actually communicate to presence those things and actually kind of, like Damien was saying the other day, like make them object to my awareness, revealing them, and be able to do that with the kind of the people that I love and I'm around, and we do this quite a bit. You know, it's like a relief because now, this thing that was there that was kind of had me a little bit, I can kind of put out in the space for both of us to kind of be aware of and just like, hey, I've been feeling a little bit anxious, and you know, and then I can kind of just be heard in that and relax into just holding it in my awareness rather than it like being me and being kind of fucked up about it.
I think it's like a really super beautiful practice what you're speaking to, and I also want a presence that it's also really normal if people struggle with even considering being able to do that. I super relate to feeling extremely anxious as in reaction to high sensation in my body. And I was sharing with Carly before how when I'm in that state, spontaneity feels a long way away for me. And by spontaneity, I don't just mean doing something fun. I mean spontaneity is like, for me, it's me knowing that there's other options for me, and being able to kind of switch positions, you know, and not get completely owned and stuck in something. And I think what you're proposing is a way to do that, is a way to kind of move it and see it from a different direction. And I think it's like all embodiment practice. I think it's just practice building the muscle of that, because what I know is that when I'm triggered, I can't rely on natural spontaneity. It's just not going to be there. So I am going to have to do something that feels really counterintuitive. It's not probably going to be intuitive in that moment for me, because all my system is telling me is I'm not safe. So the, you know, idea of being spontaneous feels completely crazy at that point. Whoa. So yeah, I really want to preface that I think embodiment and the practice you're suggesting, which is totally rad, and completely does actually give a space for relating with another person for me when I do that and I'm in that state. I did it with Carly before when I was feeling some sensations, and it's just, I have to just make it a practice. It doesn't feel natural to me. It's counterintuitive, but it works. What you're saying definitely works.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. I love that you say that. Whoa! And our seating is so not.
It's sliding. Right, it's not embodied. It's not embodying us.
Nice. I love what you're sharing there, and just like the sense of like compassion I hear in that, like for, you know, the time it takes and the practice, and like how much we can just like be had by these things, you know, that it can be actually really hard. And this is where I am such a super advocate for practice. I think it's so important, you know, and just like, you know, going at the speed that we can in our practice, you know, and a, you know, a big part of embodiment practice is just basically checking in with the sensations that are happening in our body. And it's like super simple thing to do, but it's like so powerful, you know, like it goes so far just doing that practice. But I'm also aware that, you know, like for me, feeling that fear, it took me a number of years before I was almost like ready to even see it, you know, and to, like going into the body sometimes can be quite confronting, because there can be a lot of feeling there, you know, and it can be like, and there's like good reason why we might have disconnected from that, you know, there's some kind of trauma that might be really hard for us to like, so to go slow enough to actually, you know, be able to take in those feelings and be with them in the kind of right way, you know, and actually trust the, you know, why there might be numbness or whatever it is actually there. So.
I notice where I go to, Carly, is that when I'm having sensation, I want to come up with the answer. Like I want to know, like earlier I felt triggered and I felt anxious and I didn't really know why. Like I think I knew that there was some voice happening back here that was critical, but I couldn't, I was trying to come up with the answer. And I like what you're saying, because it's really about, let's just pause for a moment on needing to know what the answer is. Like, let's just, because I can't actually, like, having the answer would require a level of spontaneity. You know, for me to have, like, ideas, right, I'd have to have some form of spontaneity active in my body, which if I'm offline, because I'm, you know, triggered somehow, that's really not going to happen. And so I like what you're saying, which is just, basically it's like pause all the thinking that's happening and just come into what it's slowing right down, because the thinking is fast, slowing right down and just tracking the sensation. And then I imagine, which is what happened for me before, once I regulated, this is what we call self-regulation, I guess, in psychology, right? It's like once I've self-regulated, then I'm back online and then I can actually relate again.
Yes, nice. Yeah, totally. Yeah, well, I think there's this thing with the body where we've got to kind of just got to trust that things will emerge in its own time, and if that we're actually just like stay present to ourselves and what's going on for us, that's actually how we make it go fast in a sense. It's not like forcing and going, well, what's going on, you know, like, and so you know, to me this is what is important about embodied communication, you know, is realizing it's a different type of communication, you know, requires a different type of awareness, and you know, and this to me is where the practice and learning how to do that becomes quite important, you know, like, yeah, taking that time to speak the language of the body in a sense. Yeah. Nice. Are we done? Is there anything left?
That feels good to me.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening,
Thanks
guys.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.